Hello, welcome to my bookshelf. Today I wanted to give you my review of Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles, the first one being Cinder, which I also reviewed, which I will link in the comments below. And so I just want to start off by saying thank you, Marissa Meyer, for improving the writing in this series. I just found this so much better than Cinder. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but I did. I just thought the writing was so much better. I thought there were a lot more genuinely amusing, funny moments. And so even though we had many different points of view, I enjoyed them all and I was interested and I understood what was going on the entire time. So I really enjoyed this. I gave this 4 stars. I gave Cinder 3, so it's definitely improvement for me. And I'm really excited to see what happens next in this series. I'm really excited to get the next book. So moving on to more specific thoughts I had about this book, I will warn you right here, right now, that this will be a spoiler review of Scarlet. So if you have not read Scarlet, you need to, 1, read it, and 2, don't watch this video until you have. So this book was not only written better, at least to me anyway, I also think it's just so much darker than Cinder, which maybe for some people would be a drawback, but to me, I really loved, which I don't know what this is about me, but I like reading about dark, kind of weird things, and Scarlet delivers on that. There's like wolf hybrid people ripping people's throats out. It's intense. I mean, I guess I should give a synopsis, so let me back up. So basically, this takes place immediately after Cinder ended. So the beginning of this book, you see Cinder escaping from prison, and she runs into Captain Thorn, though he's not technically a captain. So they escape. They also take off in his stolen ship, which is why he was in prison in the first place. He stole an American ship. And so they leave on the spaceship. But while this is all going on, we get introduced to Scarlet right off the bat. And Scarlet's been really upset because her grandma has been missing for the last 2 weeks. And she's really upset. She doesn't know what happened. All she knows is that her ID chip was taken out and she was kidnapped. And so Scarlet's really upset, and she just gets a comm saying that the police basically have given up on looking for her grandmother. And so obviously she's really upset. She's really close to her grandmother. You don't really get much mention of Scarlet's mother. I don't think she's ever mentioned, to be honest. But you do get to see her father a little later on. Her father is a drunk and wasn't around, and not a good relationship, which is why she was living with the grandmother in the first place. But the grandmother seems really cool. She gave Scarlet a gun and trained her how to use it. So Scarlet is such a badass with her gun, and she can take care of herself. Which I really liked about her character is that she was not a damsel in distress. She could take care of herself for the most part. More about that later. She ends up meeting this guy named Wolf. Eventually find out more about him. He's part of this wolf pack that took her grandmother. And so she doesn't really trust Wolf, but they kind of get to an agreement where he ends up helping Scarlet find her grandmother. So he's taking her to Paris to find her grandmother. But moving on to my thoughts about it, this book is a lot darker than Cinder. Like, a lot. These wolf hybrid people are ripping people's throats out left and right, especially by the end of the book. It's intense. Which I thought was interesting because Cinder was definitely not as dark. I think all the dark material wasn't directly in your face like it is in Scarlet, so there's a big difference there. I definitely enjoyed the dark material in this book, but moving on. I really love all the new characters that were added in this book. Captain Thorn is hilarious. Wolf and Scarlet are also amazing. I liked their relationship. I liked the bond that they had started to make as, you know, she was slowly trusting him and he was helping her out. But then the romance came in, and that just really frustrated me. I'm not a big fan of romance in books. A lot of the times I think that it's not developed really well and it's just kind of thrown in there. And I was feeling that way about them, at least initially. So I was really bummed out about that. But by the end of the book, after he helps save her and then almost ends up killing her, and at the end when she's asking, are you asking me to be your alpha female? That was so cute. I was in. So I'm excited to see where that goes. I did find it to be really interesting to read it by the end of the book. I was initially upset. I wish it was just, it's hard because you don't get much time with them. So of course it's not going to seem that well developed because they're just introduced in this book just now. But I do think that by the end of the book she rectifies it. So maybe it's just a problem that I had, but not necessarily a problem with the book. So take that how you will. But getting back to the awesome characters in this book, I was so happy to see the return of Aiko as a spaceship. I honestly didn't think that we were going to see Aiko in this book, or if we were, it was going to be in an android. I never once thought that she would plug her into the ship. That was genius. I love those scenes. In fact, I loved it so much, I'm going to read to you the moment that Aiko realizes she's a spaceship, which is fantastic. And it also features my other favorite character, Captain Thorn. Cinder, Aiko said after a few silent moments of explorations. I'm enormous. There was a distinct whine in her metallic tone. You're a ship, Aiko. But how can I? No hands, no visual sensor. Humongous landing gear. Are those supposed to be my feet? Well, no, it's supposed to be landing gear. Oh, what's to become of me? I'm hideous. Aiko, it's only temper. Now, hold on just 1 minute there, little Miss Disembodied Voice. Thorn strode into the engine room and crossed his arms over his chest. What do you mean, hideous? This time, the temperature spiked. Who's that? Who's speaking? I am Captain Carswell Thorn, the owner of this fine ship, and I will not stand to have her insulted in my presence. Cinder rolled her eyes. Captain Carswell Thorn? That's right. A brief silence. My net search is finding only a cadet Carswell Thorn of the American Republic, imprisoned in New Beijing prison on... That's him, said Cinder, ignoring Thorn's glare. Another silence as the heat in the engine room hovered just upside of comfortable. Then, You're rather handsome, Captain Thorn, Cinder groaned. And you, my fine lady, are the most gorgeous ship in these skies, and don't let anyone ever tell you different. The temperature drifted upward until Cinder dropped her arms with a sigh. Aiko, are you intentionally blushing? The temperature dropped back down to pleasant. No, Aiko said. Then, but am I really pretty, even as a ship? The prettiest, said Thorn. You do have a naked lady painted on your port side, added Cinder. Painted her myself. So I don't know about you, but that scene was so funny. I loved every moment of it. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's just my kind of humor, so I loved it. I thought it was dorky and hilarious. It was just great. Okay, so moving back to Scarlet. Her stubbornness was really frustrating to read, especially her insistence over and over again that she didn't need protection from Wolf as she's about to go into this wolf pack compound where her grandmother's being held, and that she knows have tortured her father. It was just astounding to me that she thought she could take care of it all on her own. I mean, really? I know she kind of has a quick temper and she tends to jump into things without thinking, but I mean, I guess that really exemplified that fact. It's just frustrating to read characters be so dumb. It's kind of like in the horror movie where you're like, no, don't go downstairs, but they always do, and I'm like, no, Scarlet, don't do this. But thankfully Wolf, he just ignores her and tries to help her out anyway. So thank you, Wolf. Oh, and the last note I had about this book was about Kai's plan. So by the end of the book, spoiler, Kai decides to accept the Queen's marriage proposal, which first off was just like, don't do it, Kai. So sad. But I will say, I do agree that it was a good move in the sense that it immediately stopped more people from being killed, and that needed to happen. So I did appreciate that. But I really hope, because based on his thoughts, we're not getting any of this. It sounds to me that his plan is almost suicide. He mentions how, Cinder sacrificed herself for him at the ball, and that he can sacrifice himself too. And I really hope that he doesn't actually plan to commit suicide, more or less, because he knows the queen's gonna kill him after they get married. So I hope that his plan is to come up with a plan to not die after their wedding night. So I'm hoping that in the next book, he's coming up with a plan. But I do like his decision, as long as it's followed up by a plan to save his skin, because, ignoring the fact that we love Kai, which I do, dreamy, it also just isn't good for his country and the rest of Earth, it seems, if the queen becomes the empress of this commonwealth. That's not good at all. So I hope that he sees that and that he tries his best to save his life. I'm assuming that Cinder's going to do something and jump in before any of this happens, but still, from his point of view, he doesn't know that. He's in a book, for crying out loud. He needs to have a plan. So, he better have a plan, is all I'm saying. But overall, I really enjoyed this book from start to finish. It was a really quick read, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was so much better than Cinder, and I'm really excited to read the next book in this series. Okay, so that was my review of Scarlet. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm also really curious to see your thoughts about Scarlet. How did you think it compared to Cinder? Better? Worse? How did you like Aiko as a spaceship? Let me know. Alright, and until next time.